Hello, this is Danielle Channels Planets, and today is the day of the full moon, Friday, May 1st, and the full moon is in Scorpio. So I would like to give you the archetypal astrology update of the transits of the moment. And so starting off, the ruler of the moon is Pluto, and Pluto is playing a part in this full moon. So it does kind of pack a punch in terms of the full moon being in Scorpio and the sun and the moon being in a square to the ruling planet of the moon, Pluto. So naturally, the sun and moon in an opposition during a full moon is some kind of tension. That's why we get this kind of emotional release that happens around a full moon. The sun illuminates our emotional inner world, and the moon being our inner subjective realm of our emotions and our bodies and our sense of home and safety and how we take care of ourselves. And so the sun, the light of the personality and the ego, sheds a light on that inner world. And the moon also sensitizes the sun a bit, bringing those two together in a tension of opposites, which is a Jungian term that describes a coming together of two opposing forces, and when they hold the tension between the two, it can create the third, which is the transcendent function. And so I think that's why psychologically, in our individual and collective lives, because we live in a larger psyche, that a full moon can feel like an individuating moment. Now, with Pluto involved, it takes us a little bit beyond just our normal, everyday full moon. Pluto brings in the underworld. But the best myth that is easy to understand here when it comes to Pluto is Kore, who is the daughter of Demeter, and she is abducted into the underworld by Hades. Now, I won't go into the full story, but essentially, Kore becomes Persephone, queen of the underworld. She eventually makes it out. She gets to spend her time back with Demeter, her mother, and she becomes queen of the underworld, and she spends time in both realms, the realm of the underworld and the upper living world with everybody else. The other image that I like is Hecate, because Hecate is a way shower. She is a guardian of the crossroads, and she also goes in between that liminal space of in between, and is also a kind of a dark goddess, triple goddess. So I think that is relevant today, especially for it being Beltane. And it's the transitional moment from spring into summer. And so with Pluto involved and Beltane involved in these images coming up, Pluto is about transformation and death and rebirth. And I do believe after, going through the astrology of this week and what was going on with the moon is that it was in Libra, opposite a lot of these planets here in Aries. Now that the moon has moved into Scorpio at the time of the full moon, I do feel like we're in a culmination point now, and it should start to feel different. We should start to feel this rebirth moment coming into Friday, coming into the weekend, that helps us step into a sense of personal empowerment, that helps us step into that sense of becoming queen of the underworld, the Persephone aspect of the myth, or even transcending that into the Hecate image. So transcending the Kore Persephone, and Hecate becoming the triple transcendent function goddess, maiden, mother, crone. And with that, these are metaphors for psychologically the boundaries are permeable, and what that means is that we can have access to our inner realm. We can have access to self, or God, or spirit. We can have access to the collective unconscious and images of deities, gods and goddesses, archetypal figures. And now we can only really know the archetypes through their images. The archetypes themselves are unknowable because they are in this world and outside of this world. And they speak to us through images. So, solar deities, lunar deities, plutonic deities are one way of thinking about this. Jesus, Mary, and the devil are also kind of the feminine, the masculine, and then the polarization between those two things. So Pluto can also bring up polarizing projections. It can bring up a reconciliation of opposites through extreme tension. It can bring up extreme force and power. So an unintegrated Pluto can come through in power tripping, projective, ego, emotional types of dynamics, especially with the T-square that's going on here. So there is potential for the material that emerges from the unconscious, from the underworld, to be unintegrated, and therefore, it can definitely cause some transformative moments. And I think for a lot of us, it certainly has this past week. Pluto has been in an ongoing square with the sun. It's been a challenge to our identities. It's been a challenge to our egos to integrate some stuff that's come up that we can no longer repress, no longer ignore. And I do believe now, going into May, in the beginning of May, that we can start to see the integration of that and how we want to move forward. So I do hope that this full moon is a celebratory release for people. I think it can also still be a challenge. We continue to have Pluto in a sextile aspect with Saturn and Neptune. And so we are redefining our life's trajectory at this time, which, this transformation in whatever's getting activated by Pluto coming through with Neptune, I mean, there can be delusions involved. There can be a redefining of our spirituality that's involved. There can be a lot of fog on a crossroads, and it's unclear or uncertain exactly where things might be going, and we need to have faith and trust and surrender right now. And then Saturn as well. Saturn, really restructuring boundaries, restructuring relationships, restructuring our sense of where I end and where you begin, and that can come with hard lessons. So with these outer planets talking, it's almost as if the background of our own psyches is undergoing a massive overhaul, which can make it hard to consistently connect to something helpful within ourselves. So grasping to any kind of spiritual practice is helpful, one that works and has stood the test of time. Saturn, Mars also separating now, and it's as Mars is the archetype of action and the warrior and will and courage and assertiveness and fire. It's going to pick up momentum, and as it picks up momentum, it's going into a square with Jupiter. So moving into the weekend and moving into next week, I think we're going to feel this building of inertia for our lives. And, in the Aries aspect or domain, you could add that it might relate to personal empowerment, the expression of your own will. There could be some impulsivity, but there could just be like a feeling of finally being able to break free, break out, and I think summer is a great metaphor for that. Some would say that if we don't use Pluto, that the ruler of the full moon would be Mars, which is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. And so if you look at the dynamics that are happening with Mars, we could say that there's a lot of empowerment. There's a lot of, there can be a propensity for conflict with Jupiter expanding Mars, bringing excess yang energy forward, excess warrior-like attitude. So that is a potential, especially with Mars and Aries. But I'm hoping that for most of us, it's just coming through a sense of adventure, a sense of playfulness, a sense of being childlike, color, fire energy that's creative, and getting outside and doing stuff and saying yes, and thinking about it later and acting on those impulses. And that Jupiter kind of acts as a nice buffer, which brings some good, pleasant experiences, and maybe a lot of them forward for us. So that is great. And then, Mars will continue on in Aries. The full moon is also in an aspect with Jupiter, and that will be moving into, over the weekend, closer to a trine with Jupiter. So I think the Mars-Jupiter energy will feel good. It will feel exciting. It will feel supportive. And then lastly, I just want to say that this Venus-Uranus, still in a wide orb conjunction in Gemini, is also talking to Pluto, and both of them are continue to be in a trine, meaning that creative change and creative freedom, liberation, and expression are a part of this full moon. And I would say that that's probably the biggest piece here is the Aries energy that is coming through and the Gemini energy that is coming through. And the Gemini energy that is still, I think, new in how it's reshaping our lives and coming through in unexpected ways that we probably hadn't planned on. Depending on where this is falling in your chart and depending on where, what aspects it's making to your personal planets. But generally for all of us, Uranus ingressing into Gemini is probably shaking up our creativity and how we express ourselves, how we dress, the colors that we pick, our relationships, our values. And so if that's very destabilizing, it will settle because Uranus will be there until 2033. But at this time, at that 0 degree point, it can be very unsettling. And I think that Venus is here to help assist with this transition. So I would say that, like, if you're feeling kind of, now Uranus in Gemini, it could be quick moving and quick paced. And again, with the Aries energy, can also just kind of be faster than this winter was going. And also we're really picking up momentum with fire and air energy. And leaning into Venus and letting her breathe, letting her have some space for the transformation. She is here to support. She's in a supportive trine to Pluto. And I think that Venus can, while she's undergoing a transformation as well, that's our Persephone. That's our queen of the underworld, kind of leading the way in this procession and moving on. Now, this Mercury will follow the sun, and these things will go into Taurus. And I think May is just going to feel a little different. It's going to definitely be a different Taurus season after this full moon. We've been getting the full moon at the beginning of the month, or the beginning of the sign, and then we're getting the new moon. So it'll be interesting to see what gets released, what space gets cleared. If something has been shedding in your life, it is going to then, be followed through with the new moon. So then we'll see kind of maybe what it was all for in 2 weeks when we plant those new seeds at the Taurus new moon. So please stay tuned for more updates. Please like and subscribe if you want more archetypal astrology. Drop a comment in the comment box, and thank you so much for watching.